Welcome to this edition of the Wonderbury Podcast.
I'm Brian.
I'm Dave.
And you can find us online at Wonderbury.com.
I am D. Wonderly on Twitter.
And I'm Brian Kisberry, anywhere that the internet can be found.
You can leave us a comment on our website. Check for the link in the description.
Yes.
So, twice in a year, Brian.
Twice a year. Check it out.
Yeah.
For you audio listeners, that was a real high five.
Yeah. So, I came up here for my yearly excursion to the wintertime shores of Lake Michigan in western Michigan, and it seems to be an odd time to come to a lake, but early November every year I'm here. So
big knit festival.
Yeah, they have a knitting retreat that the wife goes to, and I watch movies and hang out and play Ingress and come over and see Brian. Always spend a day over here every year when I come over up here, so
yeah.
We decided, hey, we can record together again. So twice in a year. We're in a roll.
Yep.
You need to move closer.
Working on it. What else?
So I actually heard from Mom this morning. Her biopsies all came back. The cancer did return. So she's scheduled for surgery mid next week. It's going to be pretty invasive this time, so hopefully she'll do all right with that. But, at least we know everything that's going on. They've got her infection mostly under control, but she's just... poor lady.
Yeah.
So that's what's been going on in my life for the last year. Going to be able to play with a Oculus development
I was going to say, you want to hear about my awesome week?
Go for it.
Did some video work for somebody, and they sent me an Oculus Rift and the awesome new laptop I have. Can't use it.
Not VR ready.
Not VR ready. Which apparently is a big difference. Huge difference.
Yeah.
It's not just specs. Not just specs.
So there's some hardware configuration, especially with laptops, there's hardware configuration that's got to be done. And
yep. So, don't own a laptop and expect to do VR. But Dave has one now.
Yeah, the money I was going to spend on a Black Friday deal randomly somewhere, I have a VR system. So once I get home, I'll be able to play with it, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I already told him he can come over and have some fun with it too, so we'll be good.
They're going to have to work on making those more portable because of self-driving cars. I can imagine just like sitting in a Tesla with VR, being in whatever world I want to be in.
Tesla's not the only people running the self-driving stuff right now.
Yeah, but they're the only one I want to buy.
Well, there's that. It's they're a little expensive to buy. Well, I guess, they're still, for the full self-driving, they're still pretty expensive.
Dave, I like sharp-looking cars. I wouldn't drive a Honda Civic.
No, but Cadillac's coming out with stuff, Lexus is coming out with stuff that looks really nice.
Okay, when it's past coming out and when they came out, I'll reevaluate the situation of what vehicles I would like to purchase.
I think Waymo's using Chrysler 300s.
We're not gangsta enough for 300.
Oh, come on. Just a little adaptation to your wardrobe and you'll be fine. You'll be right at home.
Would. They have a big trunk. That's nice for us Italian folk.
So yeah, Waymo though, they had a call meeting today for updates of what they're doing and everything. So for those of you who don't know, Waymo, when Google split into Alphabet, Google being now a division of Alphabet, Waymo went from being a division of Google to being a division of Alphabet. Anyway, so it's Google's, for the layman, it's Google's self-driving cars. They have been running self-driving cars in their test city in Arizona without a driver behind the wheel. And that's a huge, huge leap forward for them.
Yep.
So it's they're saying that they're still going to keep a Waymo employee in the vehicle, obviously, and most likely they'll either sit behind the driver, but they'll be in the back seat. But that's just to kind of, I don't know. There's a lot of really interesting things that come along with that kind of a jump forward. A lot of this stuff's happening in Arizona because Arizona decided a while back they wanted to be the test bed. So they have the easiest or the least amount of restrictions for self-driving vehicles. They're still obviously, like right now, it says in the article that they're not going to have free reign over Arizona's roads. They're going to be geofenced in a 100 square mile area of a suburb of Phoenix. So, but they are driving around with regular people all completely by themselves, and that's really awesome.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, going from having someone behind the wheel or forcing someone to be behind the wheel to sitting just anywhere else in the vehicle and soon to be without anyone at all is a real big jump forward. It'll be interesting to see the accident data and the safety data and all that stuff that comes out, but even the preliminary stuff on that is so much more safe and so much better than your traditional cars.
Yeah, it's amazing, and the ethical stuff that they're talking about, and like I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, what would I do in a situation like?
Well, there's the ethical side of what to do in a situation, and then there's the liability practical side.
Yeah.
And that one, I think the ethical one will end up, there's going to be bias to saving the driver in any ethical situation. So you're driving down the road and a pedestrian darts out. Normally, and you know that you're not going to have enough time to slam on your brakes and stop. So as a driver, you have one of two choices. You can swerve and crash the car to save the pedestrian, or you can just plow the pedestrian over.
You take those points.
For a human making that decision, we balance everything off of morality, and depending on what's going on might influence your decision on what you would do in that case.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with a self-driving vehicle is that there is no moral ethical dilemma in the heat of the moment. The car has to be programmed to do one or the other. So just from a cold standpoint, the car will either be programmed to kill the driver or injure the driver or kill and injure a pedestrian. And it has to be one or the two because those are the type of situations that do come up, and that's one of those, how do you market a car that will, if given the choice, will kill a driver? Or how do you market a vehicle that, you might want to silence that. You market a vehicle that could possibly kill pedestrians. And I honestly don't know what the answer to that is.
I think the answer is going to be eventually is the way AI is coming along. It's going to be able to make those decisions on the fly. And it's going to be able to calculate what the least amount of damage will be. But that's still years down the road. And they're at a point where they don't want to wait for that.
I'm not sure we're years down the road with that. I mean, with them already having full self-driving that you don't have to sit behind the wheel of, that's happening now. It's no longer down the road. These are the ethical issues that have to be answered. Well, I'm sure modern day philosophers will argue and debate the finer points no matter what they decide to do. And to be honest, I don't know if it would serve the purpose of the self-driving car manufacturers to release what it decided to do.
No. Well, my point is that eventually, when a self-driving car comes into a situation like that, it's going to be able to take in all the variables and say, okay, if we go directly at this angle, we're going to hit that pedestrian head on. Chances of death are 98%.
Yeah.
If we go at this angle, we go off a cliff, chances of driver death are 98%. But if maybe we go at this angle, we might clip the pedestrian, dangle off of the cliff, chances of death are 0.
Yeah.
Chances of damage, but only to the pedestrian.
Yeah, and so there'll be a lot more variables than the black and white. I mean, it's easy philosophically to paint it black and white, but there's actually, for the same thing that we were talking about, there are varying shades of gray in between there.
Yeah.
And those are things that as humans we make that split-second decision. The other half of this is going to be is who's going to be held liable for this stuff? Is it going to be the car owner if there's a bug? Will the car owner be then responsible for the bug causing an issue like a car accident or damage or something? Or will the car manufacturer take on that liability role? And how does that get then passed down? Is it going to be... I mean, there's that kind of issues that have to be dealt with as well.
Well, I mean, right now I'm in Michigan, so if anything like that happened, it's nobody's fault.
Yeah, and so we either see a stage area of no fault, or there'll be a specialty insurance required for self-driving vehicles that the manufacturers will have to hold and probably pass those on down to the consumer.
Yeah.
And yeah, it kind of sucks, but it might be the cost and the price you have to pay to drive a self-driving vehicle.
Yeah, that's... I still imagine that's going to be cheaper than regular.
Well, you would have the same regular insurance for the damage done, but then there's the liability of,
just a special ethical.
Yeah, well, because
liability.
if especially because at some point, if I'm buying insurance and I'm driving a self-driving vehicle, right? Normally, if I'm driving a regular vehicle and my car ends up with a defect that sticks my throttle and I rear end somebody, that's not necessarily on my insurance. It would get passed up to the manufacturer. And I think it would probably be the same thing if there was a bug in the software that caused the accident. Then it would not necessarily be my insurance, but that would get passed up to the manufacturer because of a bug and a defect.
Yeah.
So really, now that I'm vocalizing it and processing it, it wouldn't change too much from the way it is now. Because when those throttles were sticking on those Toyotas, was that a decade ago or so? Toyota took all the responsibility of all that. I mean, they had to absolve all of that liability because it was a manufacturing defect.
See, the problem with that is that the first few aren't handled like that. The first few are handled like a mistake.
Right.
After a handful of similar incidences, then they start looking into it further and go, okay, so this is a manufacturing issue and it is affecting this many vehicles. How do we handle it from here?
Yeah.
Now, if you've ever watched Fight Club, like towards the beginning when Edward Norton and Brad Pitt are on the airplane and they're discussing that, like that's exactly what that is exactly what happens. And then they decide whether they're going to issue a recall to get things fixed or if it's worth it to deal with the aftermath of what happens. It's gonna end up staying roughly the same.
And I'm sure that, especially here in the U.S., that the Department of Transportation and there'll be lots of regulations and manufacturing regulations. I mean, it's going to be regulated to the point where I think a lot of these questions, because of what's happened and because of newer technology, hopefully, a lot of the past lessons with regular vehicles will be learned and reapplied as needed into self-driving vehicles.
Yeah.
The idea of things changing is going to happen a little bit because there is a certain amount of risk and responsibility that a licensed driver we take on that we wouldn't necessarily have to take on with a fully self-driving vehicle. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's still speculation as of right now. Fully self-driving cars are out, with the exception of special permits for buses and other things that are scattered throughout. It's primarily happening in Arizona, and they're holding off on regulating things until they can kind of get more information. So kudos to Arizona for not jumping the bit to over-regulate and then release regulations that's going on, but figuring out what exactly it needs to regulate in addition to the regular regulations of motor vehicles on the highways and roads.
Hooray.
So, it's not a bad idea having a place like that.
Yeah.
Alternatively, instead of a regular city, you can do what South Korea is doing, and that's build their own little mini city with surface streets, with suburb-style streets, on-ramps, off-ramps, and an oval highway system for their self-driving car tests, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Made me wonder how Google was working with, I don't remember where in Canada they were working on building a smart city. Made me wonder how that stuff was going to play into that as well. If it was going to be all self-driving.
I'm sure it'll be a fluctuation of it, and there'll be a healthy mix of assistance or autopilot systems like what Tesla runs, which is self-driving to a certain point, but you still have to maintain two hands on the wheel at all times and a level of alertness. And the way Tesla dealt with that is they've got sensors throughout the steering wheel that if you let go of the steering wheel, you'll get a warning after so many seconds, and after 90 seconds, your car will turn its hazards on, slow down, and pull over.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's for the legality system of being able to drive those everywhere. I think that's a really good idea and a very good compromise. I'm still looking forward to being able to get in a vehicle, and I envision a pod vehicle system like an SUV that you can sit people around in an oval, and just getting in, telling it where to go, and sit back and let it go. That's what I envision cars in 15 years will look like.
Yep. I had a bit of discussion with somebody about what happens to people that want to drive. And my thing was, we have tracks all over the place already, whether it's road course style things, dirt course style things.
Well, and I'm sure that it's not going to turn into a 100% automated system. I mean, even airplanes haven't gotten that far yet.
They're close. I have a friend that's a pilot, and he says he doesn't really do much.
Yeah, but
and he
not
actually
all
gets
airplanes
so bored on his flight that he'll push buttons just so something happens and he can do something.
He's a commercial airline pilot then?
Yes.
Because you can still purchase airplanes that don't have autopilot systems in them, even today. So it's not like every single airplane, even as long as autopilot has been around, not every airplane is still only autopilot. And I think that we'll see that, maybe in 80 or 100 years we will have...
They're generally specialized things, though. And I see that's how the automotive industry will probably go, is you can, you might still be able to buy a Ferrari, but you don't get to drive it on regular roads. You're gonna have special courses that you take it to, and it gets hauled there.
I don't know though if they'll ever take away the ability to drive cars on regular cars on roads. If it does happen, it'll be far enough in the future that I don't think any of us will still be alive.
I don't plan on dying, Dave. We've gone over this. I'm planning for my future hundreds of years from now. Where I'm advocating for more track building so I can continue to drive with my fancy robot arms.
Fancy robot arms. I can't.
I will be 100% self-driving, but I want to sit in a vehicle and steer it manually.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are times that I enjoy driving, but if I had the choice of sitting behind a wheel and driving, and sitting in a vehicle and either getting some work done, or sleeping, or watching a movie,
yeah, like your trip.
I'm taking the latter every single time.
Your trip from Fort Wayne to here.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. I'm on board.
Yeah, give me 3 hours.
Give me 3 hours to sit.
Even from my house to the temple. It's city driving. It's a mile, like 1.1 miles.
Yeah.
I'll get my car, push up button, go to the temple, and I'll do something while I'm going there. I'll eat. I'll do something. I just don't want to have to deal with stupid people driving other cars. I'll let a computer deal with that. Tired of other people.
Agree to that.
Especially on the roadways.
Especially on the roads.
But no, it's the future's here. I mean, even at the beginning of the year, when we first encroached on the subject at the beginning of 2017 of self-driving vehicles, it still felt like a futuristic. Okay, they're testing it, but they've been testing flying cars since the 60s. And that's the way it kind of felt. Okay, there's prototypes, there's a big company involved. We've seen this dance before. And now, they're suddenly serious about this one for whatever reason. And it's no longer just a theoretical, it's actually happening.
I think we've progressed a lot further with the technology involved too.
I also think that self-driving cars answers a tangible problem that we have in the world. I mean, there's 1.4 million drivers that die worldwide every year in car accidents. And while not all of them are due to human error, a gross majority of them are due to some sort of human error. Either a mistake, driving too fast in the bad conditions, losing control of a vehicle, all this stuff. And how much of that can be salvaged and saved by simply taking the human element out of the equation. And because we have an actual tangible need, so flying cars are cool, not really a need. You can go to a place and get on an actual airplane.
That's what you think.
It's not solving a current crisis-style problem. It is a problem of inconvenience, more so a problem of safety.
It is. Because I think about going from here to my parents' house there's not a direct shot. I have to make a big L shape one way or another to get to where my parents live. Same as you coming here. What way did you come up? Take 69 to 94 to 131?
Yep.
So rather than that and it being 3 hours, if our self-driving cars were now flying and we take off and it's just a straight shot.
Except that flying isn't a straight shot.
It wouldn't be as...
Because of where airports fly in, they have their own... You have to travel this direction to go. It's more of a straight shot than it is on the roads. Yes, I'll give you that.
And I'm not even talking about airports anymore. Just if you've got your car in your garage and it pulls out and it can lift off straight from there, it's gonna know the best route, and it's gonna know the same as how a fleet of self-driving vehicles are gonna start talking to each other. The same as the self-flying vehicles are going to start talking to each other.
Yep.
And it's going to say, hey, we're going to be coming in at this height, and you're going to go under at this height. And it's...
Yeah, it's...
Our want for convenience is going to make that a need.
That is true. But I see the self-driving coming and prophesying out and becoming mainstream before we go to self-driving flying.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly because the flying aspect is more of a convenience than the self-driving aspect.
Yeah. And just the power that it takes. I watched an episode of a show called The White Rabbit Project, which, by the way, pretty awesome.
I've heard of it. I haven't really done anything much with it.
It's the three, I guess I call them sidekicks from Mythbusters. The original one, which apparently there's a new one. Anyways, the three...
So, Tory Grant and Carrie.
Yep.
Yep.
It's on Netflix, and they were testing out, like, super villain powers in real life. Like, what kind of super villain powers could they create in real life? And they talked to a guy in Dubai who had essentially a wingsuit with rockets.
I've seen him interviewed by several other people before.
Yeah.
That guy's cool.
Yeah. And he's just like, yeah, I take off from a helicopter and I have to land with a parachute, but it's 2017 and I can fly from here to there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, those guys are... Yeah, that flying wingsuit, they did something with him, and he did a big special with Adam Savage separate from that project where he got interviewed and kind of demoed the technology and was showing off a little bit. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. That was pretty rad. And see, and that's kind of more what I imagine, too, is it's going to be smaller things like that. You know, where it'll eliminate, like, the huge jumbo jets and stuff, and it'll just be smaller things. Like, oh, I need to fly down to Fort Wayne and pick up a hard drive. Why would I have to fly to pick up a hard drive, though?
Yeah. I fly to Fort Wayne to record a podcast.
To record a podcast. And be back in a couple hours.
No, it'd be nice. It still costs a lot more. It's a lot more fuel to fly than it is to drive.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah, and then we'll all go completely electric, and then it'll be more power. It's still more power to fly because you're driving faster and you're fighting gravity. And the physics of it's always going to cost more to fly than it is to drive. You still keeping up with Star Trek?
Yes. Still confused. I know Stamets is tripping balls.
Stamets tripping balls is awesome, and. Yeah. They keep... I've got my own theories as to why, and I think it has to do with the Mirror Universe a little bit. I don't think that Lorca is a member of the Mirror Universe at all. I think that was just... In wartime, desperate people do desperate things. And we're still early enough in the age of the Federation that they will do some pretty desperate things. But even later in the Federation, I mean, Deep Space Nine, they were doing some pretty desperate, crazy things even then.
That's what Section 31 is they're like, okay, we're kind of desperate.
Even outside of 31, which I think 31 is going to come up a lot more in the second season. But, you know... When the Federation realized they needed the Romulans and the Klingons to work with the Federation against Cardassia and the Dominion.
Yeah.
The way that Sisko got the Romulans into the war was he murdered a delegate, like a senator or an ambassador, and blamed it on the Dominion. I mean, this was later on. I mean, this was not just the early stages. So war makes people do a lot of desperate things when your back is against the wall. And I think that's what we're seeing mostly with Discovery and Lorca is that they got someone who is willing to bend and break the rules to achieve an ultimate success and an ultimate goal. Now, the flip side of that is that he's got a lot of crazy people that work for him, and that's what's making the season so fun. You watch The Orville at all?
I've seen the first couple of episodes, but I haven't caught up.
It got a lot better.
Okay.
It started off kind of very too much campy. It's smoothed out to, I really like it. I think that it's a little more lighthearted than TOS, but it's still just as campy. And it's kind of campy 2017 instead of campy 1960. Which is good. It's not a bad thing. I mean, you know, there's jokes and references that go back and forth all the time. But I think that as dark as Star Trek is right now, having Orville being, on its essence, a fairly good science fiction show that's a lot more lighthearted, balances those two out pretty well for me.
So you had said that you were only going to watch Discovery on CBS All Access.
Yeah, well...
And then I told you about...
Guess who's not getting rid of All Access?
Yeah.
Twilight Zone looks good.
Are you going to watch the other new show that happens to start this Sunday, which is also the last day of Discovery for the year?
Which one?
I don't remember the name of it. It's called No Worries? That's probably wrong.
Probably.
I figure I'm at least going to check it out. Looks like a buddy comedy, produced by Will Ferrell. That's purely just by looking at the cover of the show, like the show image. But I figure since I have it, might as well watch an episode or two and see if I like it.
Yeah, it's, you know, I'm no longer planning on getting rid of CBS All Access. There's going to be enough stuff, I think, in there that I'll keep the lineup, and I'll keep looking at it, and you know, we'll see what happens. I mean,
they got you good, didn't they, Dave?
well, I'm halfway tempted to go commercial free now with it too.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm gonna hold out because I'm already paying them
$5.99. This is the way. See, here's how I justify this, right? Okay. I did the math a little bit. When a new Star Trek movie comes out, I will probably go see it in the theater twice, and then I'll purchase it. Which means for a 2-hour movie, I will probably spend somewhere around $50. That comes out that I'm willing to spend $25 an hour for Star Trek. CBS All Access equals out to be right around 50 cents an hour for episodes.
Yeah, but is that you paying or is that the advertisers paying?
That's what comes out of my pocket. I've already established that I'm willing to spend $25 an hour for Star Trek. I'm not going to bitch about 50 cents an hour. And I will tell you what, the production quality and the quality of the show that we're getting out of Discovery is on par with any movie. Easily. TV shows, especially ones that are now being built specifically for not the freebies, but through these subscription services, tend to be production value a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Game of Thrones, Westworld, any of these, you know, even Vikings, which is, I think, airs on the History Channel.
That's a pretty good show.
The production values are just off the charts good.
Yeah.
And it's not, I mean, you know, I hate to say it this way, it's not your father's television anymore. TV and episodic stuff you're pretty much getting, you know, we're at what, episode 8 now? 9? Almost 9 of Star Trek?
Yeah.
It's like you're watching an 8-hour Star Trek movie with intermission breaks.
Yeah.
Binging it.
Long intermission breaks.
But if you go back and watch it and you binge the season, you're watching an 8-hour Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
And if I'm willing to do that with a 2-hour movie and pay $50 through 2 showings through the theater and purchasing it when it's released, I'm not going to complain about paying 50 cents an episode to them. I'm not going to complain about it.
I'm
Or even $1.
I'm not complaining how much I'm paying. I'm complaining that there's a paid tier that still shows advertisements, and I dislike that across the board.
Yeah, well, or you can pay the paid tier that doesn't show it. I mean, to be fair to CBS, they do give you a choice.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't have a choice. You're going to get advertisements no matter what. You just, if you don't want to pay the extra $3 a month, then they'll show you, and it's not nearly the amount of ads that you would get. There's 5 ad breaks? No. There's 3 ad breaks per episode at a minute 30 per ad break.
Yeah.
So you get 4.5 minutes of ads per episode instead of 4.5 minutes of ads per quarter of an hour on television. Either way, you win.
Yep.
So.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. We're done. Thanks for hosting me, man. We're going to do this more often next year.
Yes.
Because I don't think we're going to be doing this again for the rest of 2017. No, we'll be back to our regular individual locations.
Regular call-in show.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Catch you guys next week.